Hello everybody. To start off today, I want you to make sure that you have a 3.4 Explore Compound Interest note packet in front of you. If you do, then you're off to a good start. What I would like though is for you to pause the video and go ahead and try the bell ringer problem on your own. This bell ringer is reviewing what we talked about on Friday with simple interest. So go ahead and pause it right now and give it a try. Then go ahead and turn back on the video and check your answer with mine. So again, like I said, we talked about simple interest on Friday. If you recall, the formula for simple interest is interest is equal to principal, which is my starting amount, times my rate, which is my interest rate as a decimal, times my time, which is my time in years. So if we are looking here with the information they give us, they say that we are starting with $3,000. So my principal is going to be 3,000 times my rate, which my rate is 4.5%, which has a decimal, which I'm going to move over 2 places, is going to be 0.045. And my time, since we're talking about time in years, is going to be 7/12 because there's 7 months in a year. Once you've got to this part, you just plug those numbers into your calculator, and you should get for your interest to be $78.75. However, we have to be a little bit careful here because it doesn't say what is your interest. It says what is your total amount in your account. Well, the total amount in your account isn't $78.75. It's your interest plus what you started with, or plus your principal. So the total, we'll say, is the $3,000 I started with plus the $78.75 I gained in interest. So my final answer is going to be $3,078, and 75 cents. Hopefully that question went okay. We're going to kind of continue this idea of simple interest and talk about how that relates to compound interest today. So let's go ahead and do that now. So like I said, today is kind of the first day that we'll talk about compound interest. We're just going to talk about what it is and kind of explore how it works. Tomorrow, we are going to talk about a formula that we can use for compound interest. And on the slide, I just put the definition of compound, 2 or more parts together. I just put pictures of compound in science, compound words, 2 words put together. It's going to be kind of the same idea with compound interest. It's just a bunch of simple interests kind of put together. Again, here are those keywords that we'll talk about throughout the day. And here is just a little slide about what compound interest is. But before we talk about compound interest, we have to remember that simple interest is calculated on the principal alone, right? How much you start with, and then our interest rate and our time, and that will give us our interest. Compound interest, on the other hand, is where you earn money on your principal and whatever your previous interest was. So, for instance, a lot of times we talk about when something is compounded. So you'll hear things like compounded monthly. So that means every month they take whatever you had previous in your account plus your interest, and that becomes your new principal. And then they go ahead and do that simple interest formula again. So again, essentially your principal or your starting amount is adjusted when you indicate how often you compound. We'll do a couple examples and hopefully this will make a little bit more sense to you. Some terms that we have to understand for today. The first one is annual. So sometimes they'll say we're compounding annually. And if you see that annual word, that means every year or once a year. If you see the word semi-annually, that is going to be twice a year. So that would be every 6 months that you would compound. So maybe I'll make a little note of that just so we remember it's going to be every 6 months. So that would be twice a year. Next, quarterly, right? If you think of $1, there's 4 quarters in $1. So quarterly is going to be 4 times a year, which would then mean every 3 months. Daily, we know that daily means every day, and there are 365 days in a year. Or a non-leap year, and we're always going to assume that it's a non-leap year. Then finally, monthly, we know that would mean every month, and there are 12 months in a year. 12 months in a year. So let's go ahead and do an example so you can see how compound interest works. So it says first, how much interest will you earn in 1 year at a rate of 6% on $1,000? So this is just a simple interest problem, right? We have my principal, we have my rate, and we have my time period. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that into my formula. Interest equals principal. So my principal here is 1,000 times my rate, which is 0.06, times my time. It's in 1 year, so I'm just going to plug in 1 here. So my interest for this problem is going to be $60 when I plug that into my calculator. So it says, what is my new balance? Well, my new balance is going to be the $1,000 I started with, plus my $60 in interest. So my new total is going to be $1,060. Now it says, how much interest will you earn the second year? So this is how compound interest works. It takes my new balance, because I'm saying it's compounded yearly. My new balance is, or my balance is adjusted every year. So my new balance now, instead of 1,000, it's going to be 1,060. And I want to figure out what that interest will be on the second year. So again, I'm still going to use my formula and my simple interest formula, and the only thing that's going to change is my principal. So my principal now is 1,060. My rate is still 6%. And I just want to find it for another year. I've already done it for 1 year. This is for the second year. I don't plug in 2 for t. I'm just going to plug in 1. So I'm doing 1 more year than what I've already done. So again, I'll plug this into my calculator, and it looks like my interest is going to be $63.60. Again, this is an example of something that would be compounded yearly. My principal is going to be adjusted every single year. So why don't you go ahead and try the next problem on your own? I would go ahead and pause the video and then turn it back on when you think you have it and check your work. So the question says, hopefully you had a chance to try this one. It says, how much interest does $1,000 earn at an interest rate of 6% compounded quarterly? So if it's compounded quarterly, that means 4 times a year. So every 3 months, we're going to compound that money, or we're going to adjust my principal. So let's go ahead and find out how much interest we get. So again, I'm going to use my formula. I equals PRT, interest equals principal times rate times time. My principal here is $1,000 times my rate, which is 0.06, and times my time. So if it's compounded quarterly, again, we said quarterly was every 3 months. So again, my time is always in terms of years, so I have to put in 3 over 12 here. Again, when I plug that into my calculator, it looks like I am going to get $15. Therefore, my new total, or my new balance after 3